you ready to be unleashed and unstoppable?
Are you ready to experience a breakthrough and step into your next level of leadership?
Living a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms, unapologetically.
This podcast is for discovering how to play big, how to be unleashed and unstoppable.
Through wiring inner success at the source as you step into your full potential as a wildly ambitious leader.
We are
Lianne Carter and
Carol Register. We are certified Master Neurocoaches and the founders of Unleashed and Unstoppable You.
We're best known for being confidence-boosting, neurohacking, productivity, and wealth experts.
And for high-achieving leaders, visionaries, and entrepreneurs.
Now let's be unleashed and unstoppable.
Hey, everybody. Hello. I'm so glad you personally are here with us. We're inviting you into this conversation with us, and we are really looking forward to giving you some great information today on how to put your best asset to work for you. It's this beautiful brain of yours that's right here attached to you on your shoulders, at least most of the time. If you're like me, I'm like, oh, so glad this is attached, right?
Exactly.
So we are excited to give you information to help you put this beautiful asset, your best asset, your most powerful asset to work for you. And we're going to talk about the biases that we operate by. And so if you're new to us, we'll just review some information on the neuroscience side of things. And we want to remind you that one of the things we do is we help you increase your productivity and wealth with principles of productivity and wealth, increase your time and money basically through neuroscience. And in doing so, you because we're integrated beings, you elevate all areas of your life. You begin to elevate in your leadership. You get off the path to burnout. You start to have better relationships, better health, stronger spirituality, better education, better creativity. So that is a part of what fires us up. We dive into time and money because it's something we're all using and we're all familiar with. And I don't know about you, but I love the increase, right? We live in abundance. So, jumping in, our brains are wired to keep us safe, not make us successful. What does that mean? That means that your brain is actually protecting your subconscious, your automated system. And the way the brain sees safety is whatever is familiar to you, whatever is a habit, a pattern, a way of thinking that you've repeated over a period of time, established with our emotions, becomes our beliefs. And then they're operating, they're working back here in our subconscious, our brain's protecting them, and we're making daily decisions from this place without our awareness. Yeah. And this is the brain working properly. It's supposed to protect this automated system. So one of the exciting parts, though, is when you begin to grow and you get uncomfortable because you're out of that familiar zone and the brain doesn't see that as safe and wants you to stay safe and in that familiar zone, is that growth is uncomfortable, right? Very uncomfortable. It can be. We're all about showing you how you can bring the reward and wire in your success, your higher level, right?
And lean into that uncomfortableness, right? I know, Carol, you and I start working with our new clients. We always speak about, you get to get uncomfortable being uncomfortable working with us because your brain is going to want to keep you safe. That uncomfortable feeling is your brain communicating that, hey, you're leveling up. You are playing a bigger game. And so we like to celebrate that uncomfortableness because it is an amazing way for your brain to signal to you that, hey, you are stretching yourself. You are
Yeah.
playing a bigger game. You are putting yourself out there. You are stepping into this confidence, this bigger vision that you have for
And
yourself in your life.
courage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You know?
it's really, we just want to preface that to invite you guys to celebrate that, because
Yeah.
it is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and the uncomfortability doesn't have to last forever. Like it literally
Yeah.
is like just for moments, because once you get to the other side of that uncomfortable, like the great things happen on the other side of that. So we
Yeah.
just want to really preface that and remind you so that you understand, like, knowing that your brain's job is keeping the same familiar. Know that our brain's home base, right? Our three roots is that we want to feel worthy, we want to feel loved and lovable and accepted, and we want to feel safe. And at any point in time, if your brain's ever going to feel that you're going to be in a situation that those are kind of like in jeopardy, at risk, that's where all the fire alarms start to go off. And it's like, woo, woo, no, no, danger, danger, thinking that you're being attacked by a lion or a tiger. And that's just your brain's job. So we want to help you understand that, because we know when this doesn't get taught in school. We know that unless you study neuroscience and become certified neurocoaches like Carol and I, that we understand this. And so we want to help you understand that today. And we want to help you avoid, falling trap to some of the most common brain biases that we encounter out there, to support you guys. And I would say, especially as we head into the holiday season, I think we often are encountered more so with some of this because of, heightened states of anxiety or heightened states of stress, and just all the busyness that a lot of us may encounter at this time of year. And we want to set you guys up for success. That's what Carol and I are all about. So, so let's dive into that, Carol. Let's look at what are some of these brain biases that we want to talk about today, helping the audience and just sharing a little bit about how to work through them and how to, or bust through them, right? So that, you can get to the other side of that and not have these things hold you back.
That's right. Yes. And speaking into the fact that it is temporary when we are uncomfortable, and the tools that we have available to us, we teach a simple 4-step process for rewiring your brain, removing those limiting beliefs and wiring in your success. And then that success level becomes your new comfort level. It's what you're defaulting to. It's what you're automatically making your daily decisions from. And this process gets to continue so that you have continual success and long-term ongoing wins, as well as the quick wins, right? And as well as getting your results fast. So speaking to our brains keeping us safe, one of the ways that they do that is through biases. What's known in brain health is biases, and you may have heard of this referred to. And the first one we really want to lean into here is a negativity bias that we have. What's a negativity bias?
Well,
it is.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead when you were asking me to define that. It's in the name, right? Negativity bias. It's this automation that we often look to the negative versus a more positive outcome. We were actually 9 times more negative to ourselves, and we operate on a subconscious level where we're always looking at like the worst possible outcome versus the best possible outcome, right? If we have conversations with people and we look at society and we look about what we're surrounded by, it often is about like what you can't do, and people questioning and judging and not really seeing you thrive and be successful. Is always a matter of questioning that. And I have a personal experience myself. This past summer, just spending a lot of time with family and my daughter, I noticed that the common thing I heard from others was like what she couldn't do. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. And I remember, pausing and interrupting a few family members and saying, okay, I noticed, right? It's an observation, right? Because this is on a subconscious level. Like I want to preface that, like really important to understand that this is all happening automatically on a subconscious level that we're not necessarily aware of course, because I'm aware of people's words and what is being said. I'm aware of this, but we say it without even realizing it. And this was my common observation, is that there was a lot of being said of what she couldn't do. And it's like, poor kid, right? She's a toddler, 2 years old. She's just being told what she can't do. Well, instead of being invited and to what she can do and the invitation to explore. We just go by these automatic because of past experiences of
Or
things
somebody else's experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'll then impact or influence what you're saying or how you perceive that someone might be successful. And so if we feel that we haven't seen the success, we haven't seen things work for people, we make that assumption that's going to be like that for everybody. And so I thought that there was really fascinating when I noticed that. And it was like, wow. And it had me pay attention to what I was saying to my daughter because of the awareness piece of being mindful of like, am I setting her up for success? Am I speaking into what she can do and what she's capable of doing and giving her the benefit of the doubt? Or am I protecting her and like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, do that, where then restricting her from the growth and the experience that it comes with trying things, right? Trying
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, we both invite you to ask yourself, do you remember where that's happened to you? I can certainly think of incidences, and this is one of the things that is good to know with being mentored. Who are you sharing your ideas with? So when we have 10 pieces of new information coming at us, we're going to default to looking at at least nine of them through a negative lens. And so many things in our society are built on this, including sales campaigns, including the news that we receive, and even with the stories we receive through art and movies and music. And so that's your brain keeping you safe because it's keeping you from going into the new. Oh no, this is not possible. So we invite you, ask yourself, do you remember sharing an idea that you had that you were excited about with somebody and they immediately shut it down? Like what you were experiencing with Abby, with your relatives this summer. Because I've had the same experience where I've shared something with a relative and they were like, no, you can't do that. And here's why, because, Mary X over here experienced this and had absolutely nothing to do with my situation, what I wanted to do, but it's something that comes up as the brain wanting to get us back to safety, go back to safety. And the safety is whatever is familiar, right? Even if it's faulty. So, and that ties directly into our second bias, which is our complication bias. And oh man, if you have any analytical abilities in you, which we both do, and I certainly have leaned into that, then you may have experienced other names of this, maybe analysis paralysis, overthinking, circulating thoughts, and
psychological assessment. We talked about that as well. Yeah.
That's right. Psychological assessment. And I'd love for you to share with us what psychological assessment is, because what happens again, your brain's wanting to keep you safe. And just recently, speaking of this, I found out this past week that in my daughter's place, they gave less than 24 hours notice. The management team where she's staying gave less than 24 hours notice to come in and be prepared for a new air conditioning unit to go into her place. And there were going to be replacing compressors on the roof. And so she was going to lose a closet, and it's not a huge place. So, automatically all of our complication biases come up. What do we do with the pets while this is going on? How long will it take? Oh no, where are we going to put the things in the closet? And this is going to take a lot of time and energy away from, our businesses and our priorities. And what's amazing about this? The process was so simple, unbelievably simple. And the minute we started cleaning out the closet, we instantly knew a place for everything, because we're a place for everything and everything in its place kind of people. And so it was awesome, right? And then it made me reflect and go, that was my complication bias at work, overcomplicating things before they had ever happened, when in reality, through the action and receiving the clarity through the action, it was very simple. Everything was very simple. So we quickly and easily found a place for the kitty, and everything fell into place. Everything worked out. And yet here we were over here complicating it. Have you experienced that? Can you think of examples of that? And
Definitely.
Alex,
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely. I mean, even my clients, when Carol and I were talking about this earlier, like it seems to be this thing like in the air this week that I'm noticing that a lot of clients are facing this as well. And so which is why we wanted to speak into this. We wanted to talk into this right now, because just seeing
and the
how
psychological assessment. I would love for you to define that.
Well, it's almost like the brain in some ways is kind of shutting down, kind of feeling it's overwhelmed, right? Like wanting to figure out all the things. So you get the 24-hour notice, and you're like, your brain is trying to figure it all out. Getting caught up in the psychological assessment is the mechanics, right? Like,
it's getting into survival brain instead of thriving brain. And that's that monkey brain that we hear. That's the, okay, I've got to fight for life kind of thing.
And when you're in that stage of your brain, you're not able to access the logical thinking part, the creative side of your brain that's going to help you find solutions. And so the psychological assessment is, I mean, I imagine it's just kind of this like big ball of mess just going around in your head, where you can't think straight, because you are trying to figure it all out. So you're trying to be all up here in your head. And then your brain is going to also like the end, like the end, and trying to figure out like all of the things all at once, versus doing like one thing at a time, like staying one step at a time, so to speak. And so
and the high achievers and leaders that we have dealt with, I know with some of my clients, what has been experienced is this analysis paralysis, where you're literally going into all the scenarios. And this happens a lot with investing, a whole lot with the emotions that come in underneath. Even somebody can appear to be so clear without realizing they are operating by these biases and these limitations unawares. And so then it's like, thinking out to this degree, to that degree, to that degree, to that degree. And what's that based on? It's based on fear and scarcity. And, you know, Alex, Lianne, and I have looked at this through putting contracts together in certain situations and in certain business situations, particularly because a contract is almost like an insurance policy, where it spells out what happens in worst case scenarios, like a will even. And so when we want to be aware of complication bias when we're looking at these things, and we want to be aware of also creating the things that we do want and that are important to us. And so I just invite you to look at where you've experienced complication bias, and to recognize that you have the power, permission, and authority to get back to simplicity.
And sometimes when you said that, Carol, I mean, I think that's been a word that I've really embodied the last couple of months, and even as we start playing out for 2023, is like keeping it simple, like looking at the simplicity of it, because our brain's natural tendencies, especially as high achievers, is to overcomplicate things. It wants to overcomplicate. Overcomplication keeps you safe, right? Because you get all up in here in your head, you start spinning, and then you don't move forward because you're
which way do
spinning.
I go? I can't make a decision.
So going back to, you know, intention, right? Like going back to the why. So for Carol, getting, you know, for her daughter, it's getting this new air conditioner, creating space. So the why is creating the space. And so the brain's going to go for, okay, I'm creating space. Let's find solutions to create the space, versus getting caught up in, okay, the specifics, or like where everything's going to go, allowing it, trusting it to fall into place. And so I think it's so important, you know, for the listener, for you guys to you to understand, like, your brain wants to go to the overcomplication. Like it's doing that to keep you safe. So when you can acknowledge that and see like, oh, okay, my brain is overcomplicating things right now. What is it that I want? What is the intention? How do I get to make this simple? You know, and I know some people like to use the word like easy.
What
Like,
does simple look like?
Yeah.
In this scenario?
Yeah.
You know, just simply asking that question. And again, I go back to your power, your permission, your authority to do what you want to do, to create the reality you want to create, and start to shift the way that your brain is working to keep you safe. What would happen for you if your brain keeping you safe means it goes to clarity and simplicity?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I actually really love the way you talk about the why with space, because we can often think about the mechanics of the why. Brain likes to go to the mechanics and the how of things.
The how, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do I do this? And so when you look at the why through simply leaning into your why, one of the ways to lean into your why is to create space. That was really, really powerful. And we want to also bring you the third bias that our brains use. There are more. There are several more actually, but the three that we often encounter with our clients and that we've had our own experiences with are the internal versus external, the people pleasing bias, right? And how's that? What's come up for you? I think you have a story around that, don't you?
Well, you just said something earlier, even with the complicated bias, Carol, right?
Yeah.
First, right? Leaning into what's important to you. Sometimes what causes the complication bias is that you're getting caught in this people pleasing bias of wanting to please other people versus looking at what's important to you and your vision.
Yeah, that's so true.
So
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna just, as you know, you asked about this my personal story with people pleasing and the biases in leadership is getting caught, and it actually is the complicated bias, getting caught in my head, not being able to make a decision because of wanting to be liked, wanting to be accepted, wanting people to see me in this role as a leader, wanting people to
appear
acknowledge
perfect.
You know, and my expertise
look good.
So getting caught up in what am I saying, how do I look, how am I showing up, how am I being perceived to be accepted? Because as we said, as we started this podcast, right, our brain's going to go back to, am I loved? Am I worthy? Am I accepted? Am I safe? Am I secure? And so it's going to impact then, right, the decisions we make, the actions we take, the results we create. And so if my brain is saying, you know, the result I want is to be accepted, the result I want is to be seen, the result I want is to be acknowledged for my leadership and my, you know, my stance on something, for example, I'm going to get caught up. My decision is going to be get caught up in the psychological assessment of being able to figure out what I should say instead of standing in the vision, instead of standing in my stance of what I'm standing
and what you
for.
want and the belief of what you want.
Right.
Which, beyond the circumstances even. Which I think that's so powerful.
And it can ruffle, like, here's the thing. It can, sometimes it might ruffle feathers. And instead of standing in my power, in my stance or whatever it is, and just connecting with myself and being authentic with what I'm standing for, right? Like as we do as leaders, we take a stance for something, then you get caught up in this because of how other people will perceive it. And then then it becomes disconnected from what it is that you're actually standing for and your word and your integrity. And it becoming more about people pleasing and being accepted by other people and what other people want from you.
It's interesting too, because when, you know, our over 90% of our limiting beliefs come from our childhoods. And when you think about, you know, the way that we're raised traditionally is in a family setting, or, you know, from the very get-go, we are looking to others for authority, school, family, extended family, peers, peer relationships, goes on to job. And often along the way, we didn't hear the messages about learning to trust ourselves. And this is a big part of what Alex, Lianne, and I do in the Diamond Transformation, because it's really important for you to start to trust yourself. And when you do, your confidence builds. Confidence is based on you keeping your word to yourself, right? So I tie this in to, well, we both do tie this into the principle of wealth that we are teaching, right, Alex, on Pearson's Law. And we like to take Pearson's Law, and what we have, I won't go into it here because we've spoken on it in other episodes. Our episodes on our principles of wealth are, I think, 12. Go back and listen to 12, 15, 26. These are where we've addressed some of this. And so Pearson's Law is a principle that we teach how to increase your wealth in 15 minutes a day. And as what you measure grows, what you measure and report grows exponentially. And you can go back to those episodes to catch more about that. And so one of the things that we're doing on a neuroscience level, when we break it down really small, is using different principles, including learning to trust ourselves, including by doing this in a really simple, easy, clear way. We're addressing each and every one of these biases, right? We're taking something that's normally seen as negative and moving it into a positive realm. We're taking something that's often seen as complicated, or where we're ignoring our finances, and making it very simple. And we're also building confidence by learning to trust ourselves by repeating a new habit and pattern that we get to celebrate, right? And so we want to invite you to start to apply these things in your life, and just look and ask yourself, where am I operating by a negativity bias? How am I viewing the things that are coming in? Where am I overcomplicating things? Where can things really be simple? And, where am I trusting myself? Where am I keeping my word to myself? When I say that I'm going to stay hydrated or get enough sleep, where am I doing that? And I want to be super, super clear on this point. We are not talking about perfectionism here. When you're honoring your word to yourself, you're doing it messy. You're just taking the action. And what tends to happen is we tend to do it 80% of the time the way we're wanting to do that. And that starts to build that new neural network, that new pattern. And we're having tons of love and grace for ourselves when, we don't meet our standard. But then that consistency, that those small changes being big results, builds and builds. And all of a sudden you're operating from a success network. You're putting your most powerful asset to work for you in all areas of your life. So,
and that's exciting. I don't know. I'm pretty excited, like leading into that and reminding our listeners that they have the power, right? Like just the awareness piece. So that when I was thinking about like our call to action, I was leaning into that awareness piece, right? Being aware of the words that you're using, even being aware of what other people around you, like how they're presenting things, right? And then looking at, where can I shift it? Where can I look at how I'm saying things, and how can I reframe them? Because what we focus on grows, right? As you say, Carol. So if we bring up the negative and we focus on the negative, we're going to create more negative, right? So by being able to reframe it and reposition it on something more, on a more positive outcome, we're going to focus on creating that more, right? Like I'm just thinking of, at this time of year, I think a lot of people saying, I feel really tired. right? I feel really tired. I feel really run down. I feel really exhausted, right? I can't wait for the holidays so I can relax and recharge and all those things, which is great. However, if you keep saying, I feel tired, I feel tired, I feel tired, you're going to create more tired, right? So where do you get to lean in to look at that differently? It's not to say you're not tired and you're feeling tired, but just to be mindful and aware
of the repetition of it.
These repetitions and what you're creating on the other side of that.
You're building a network that says I'm tired. Right. And, I think that brings up a really great point about we are not talking about toxic positivity. That's come up lately. I don't know if you've heard that term, but we're not talking about not validating where you're at and not ignoring and stuffing down negative thoughts or emotions. We're all about bringing them into the light, bringing them into awareness so that we can deal with them and we can create the life, the reality that we want. And we see this all the time. Alex, Lianne, and I, you and I have experienced this big time in our lives. We see it all the time in our clients, and we're here to bring you hope and bring you the excitement of what you can do when you start to look at the way this beautiful asset you have, this brain of yours, works, and you start to wire it to help you create the life and the reality that you want to have. And, it's really important to acknowledge these things and then to know the power that you have to shift, just like you were saying, Alex, right? To start to see it through a different lens and make a different decision.
Right? Because the awareness piece, I think, is just what's super key here. And it's not about going down to the self beat up. It literally is about just becoming aware and just seeing, okay, where does the negativity bias show up in my life? Where does the complicated bias show up in my life? Where does the people pleasing show up from my life? Just so that you have this awareness of where it is showing up. And then from there, you get to, you're in control. So you get to make then decisions based on that, right? And our decisions impact the actions we take, which impact the results we create. And that's why that awareness piece is so important, to understand that, where you're operating from that place. So it's a place of, I think it's leaning into that neutrality, right? Being neutral about it, and just, it's not stuffing it down. It's acknowledging it, how you are feeling, and realizing that you have choice. We talked about this in our podcast episode last week. You have the power to choose. So in any situation, how do you want to fix things? How do you want to show up? How do you want to be speaking to yourself? How do you want people to be speaking to you? And acknowledging and seeing the role that the brain plays in keeping you safe with what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, the internal dialogue that's going on. And so just that awareness piece can completely shift things for you and impact the results when you're looking at time, when you're looking at money, when you look at your relationships, even your health, right? And so that's what we wanted to bring to you today, is really helping you become aware of this, and then just realize that you have the power to choose and that you are in control, and you can make, interrupt those thought patterns, interrupt those automations, and slowly start to, shift things and shift the outcome of what that creates.
That's right. You have the power, permission, and authority to have your best life ever.
Yes.
So we can wrap it up now, and we're going to bring you another exciting episode next week. We have got some amazing things in the works for you. So just stay here with us. Jump into our email newsletter. Feel free to schedule a call with us at any time. We would love to talk to you, help you with a strategy, a plan, and to answer any questions you have, because you do have the power. You absolutely do have the power. And we have an amazing community that we want to invite you into. And we also want to let you know you can DM us at unleash.unstoppable.you over on Instagram. and just dive in with us. And everything we do here is for your benefit. And we love serving you, right, Alex, Lianne?
Yes, which is why if you head to our show notes, you will see the links to join our Productivity and Wealth Facebook community. You can grab our wealth activation and you can, jump on a call and dive deeper and uncover maybe some other maybe biases that you are experiencing that are holding you back and are, impacting the results that you are creating.
That's right. And please subscribe here or follow us, because we love serving you to a greater degree. Leave us a review and have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we can't wait to hear from you and hear how these episodes with these calls to action are impacting your life. Ciao for now. Oh, go ahead.
Our listeners, happy holidays as well, as we are in the holiday season. And yes, stay tuned and we'll have another episode next week.
So ciao for now. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review and subscribe. That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.